Welcome to WAVE 102, Lesson 11. Today, Denise is going to talk about walking toward the help. She'll summarize that section. And we're going to go over the 9th example in 4-step Bible study. Here's Denise.
Last time we gave you the assignment to keep thinking about those 7 questions and what you want for your life, and then we added to start praying those 3 passages back to God. Now, if you would be willing to take 5 minutes a day to just think to yourself, what do I want for my life? To really just take the time to ponder this, to start to let that answer come to you, and then start praying those 3 prayers to have the power to understand God's love and the power to love Him back with all that you are. And Lord, be merciful to me, a sinner, as I work on this. It will change your life. A 5-minute-a-day investment will change your life. The answer to your inner longing of what you want will surface and will empower your time with God. It's well worth the investment of time. So find time to give yourself that bit of solitude to think about what you want for your life, and then to start asking God to help you. Okay, now we have, in this last chapter 4, been talking about how do you walk toward the help? How do you get the help that God provides? So, God has provided His Word. He's got this whole Bible of help. And He's given us the Holy Spirit. He's willing to live within us. He really is invested in helping us. But we have this baffling tendency of running away from the help. And we talked about how that is, sin is basically independence from God. We tend to run away. That is at the root of all sin. So believers start out well because they say, okay, I am dependent on God for mercy and forgiveness. But during the course of their life with God, they can revert back, or we can revert back to that sin of wanting to be independent. So it is helpful to understand God's pattern for how He's going to help, because He takes us, He blesses us, He breaks us so that He can give us, so that we can be fruitful and have a life that we're meant to have. But in order to do that, we have to take on His yoke. We have to be willing to not be independent, but to walk with Him. You can picture this bucking wild horse, they're trying to get the saddle on it, and it's just bucking around. Well, that is sort of how we can be if we're not in the yoke. We're not able to take in and hear from Him what would be helpful. We can't get trained because we're too busy, out of the yoke, running around. And the benefit of being in the yoke, it keeps us from running after these deceitful desires, having these futile thoughts, just taking offense because we don't know God, we don't understand Him. These all kill our desire for God when we go that way. And as we walk with God in the yoke, He can begin to fix those kind of things that get us off for Him, that are killing our desire, that work against our relationship with Him. If we are willing to walk with Him, we can hear, and He can begin to redeem back and heal the things that are hurting us. But what's interesting is these deceitful desires that we tend to go for, or thinking futilely, or taking offense, they all lead us into this compulsive kind of life where you just, it's one more thing that you need then you'll be content. It's just this compulsive kind of behavior. But because you're going after this elusive standard, that's you never quite get there to where it's all fine. But that's not how it is when you get in the yoke with God. It is not a compulsive life because you already have God. You have what you need. And so it is a life of patience and trust. And you are just walking with Him in the yoke. You're not compulsively running around trying to get the next thing. You're being patient and trusting and getting to know Him who provides all of your needs. It's a far different life, one well worth finding. Blessings on you.
Today we're looking at the 9th example of 4-step Bible study, and that's looking at a verse in the Old Testament, Exodus chapter 16. If you were reading through this book, if you were studying through this book, you would know that the children of Israel were in the land of Egypt, and they were complaining to God, they were being oppressed, and God miraculously pulled them out of Egypt, and He's leading them through this wilderness toward the land He's going to give to them. When the passage opens in verse 1, the children of Israel are in the wilderness grumbling. Reading from the New American Standard. Then they set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the sons of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after their departure from the land of Egypt. The whole congregation of the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The sons of Israel said to them, "Would that we had died by the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat, when we ate bread to the full. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them whether or not they will walk in my instruction. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily." So Moses and Aaron said to all the sons of Israel, "At evening you will know that the Lord has brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord. For He hears your grumblings against the Lord. And what are we that you grumble against us?" Moses said, "This will happen. When the Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening, and bread to the full in the morning. For the Lord hears your grumblings which you grumble against Him. And what are we? Your grumblings are not against us, but against the Lord." All right, this is a longer passage, so we'll look at it in less detail. We'll focus on the verse level for facts. But let's take a look. In verse 1, the question is, what do you see in this verse? It talks about them coming out from Elim, the whole congregation of Israel, to the wilderness of Sin. I don't think there's any correlation between the name of this place, Sin, and the English word sin. I think it's just a place that is between Elim and Sinai. But it does say that it's in the wilderness. So I think what I would say here, what I see, is that they came to a spot in the wilderness after coming out of Egypt. Okay? So you're just picking up the main elements of what you're seeing here. Verse 2, the whole congregation of the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. Okay, the children of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron. Also, it repeated the word wilderness. So they're not happy about being out in the wilderness. The sons of Israel said to them, "Would that we had died by the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt." Their plight, their pain, their frustration is so great, they wish they were dead. So that's pretty severe. And they talk about what it was like back in Egypt. They say in Egypt, they sat by pots of meat, and they ate bread to the full. That's a picture of not hungry. You're so not hungry you can sit by the pot of meat without eating it. Eating bread to the full, you're pretty quenched. Then he talks about, again, you're bringing us out into this wilderness to kill us. They worry that God is bringing them into the wilderness to kill them. I think it's more of a complaint, but put it down however makes sense to you. Then the Lord said to Moses, verse 4, "Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you." God answers their complaint with a miracle. He rains bread from heaven. That's, instead of water, it's raining bread. And he says, "And the people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day." So he gives them enough for the next day. He gives them enough bread for the next day. And he says, it looks like he's explaining why he doesn't give them more than a day's worth each day, that I may test them whether or not they will walk in my instruction. This is a big theme in this passage, this area of the Bible. He's giving them instruction how they should walk, how they should behave, and he wants to see if they'll do it or not. So he's making them have enough for their meal, but not enough to get independent of him. Okay, verse 5. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily. A fact there could be, on the 6th day, they will gather twice as much as they need for every other day. Why do you suppose that is? It doesn't say here, but the 7th day is the Sabbath, when they aren't supposed to do any work. So it appears God is making it so they gather enough on the 6th day so that it will last through the Sabbath, so they won't be having to go out and do any work on the Sabbath. Okay, verse 6. So Moses and Aaron said to all the sons of Israel, "At evening you will know that the Lord has brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord. For he hears your grumblings against the Lord, and what are we that you grumble against us?" What I pick up here is Moses and Aaron are are relaying the message. And one of the main things they relay is that the Lord hears your grumblings. And then he continues in verse 8, here's what's going to happen. The Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening and bread to the full in the morning. So he hears your grumblings. A fact here is he's going to give them meat in the evening, and he's going to give them bread in the morning so that they are full. He's going to meet their hunger. Okay, so that is the first step in Bible study, surfacing the facts. Now, in the second step, when you are identifying what you can learn from the passage, you look for areas that seem unusual to you. So, one thing that seems unusual to me is that these people are praying to God, but they're grumbling. These are not perfect prayers. These aren't prayers with thanksgiving. These aren't prayers that are humble and patient. These are just raw griping. And yet, God answered their prayer. So, what I see in that is that our prayers do not have to be perfect for God to answer them. That's what I learned from that aspect of this passage. There's several possible things to dip in. To turn that into a question that challenges me, do I believe God will answer me even when my prayer is not perfect? That challenges me, and it also teaches me something about God, that He is so patient. He is so patient with us. Okay, something else that you could learn in this passage that seems unusual to me. You look at this scene, they're in the land of Egypt. They describe what that's like in here, and it's civilization. And they were not hungry. Then God tells them, I will bring you out of this land and I will take you to a land that flows with milk and honey. They follow God and it starts looking worse than where they were. They were in civilization, now they're in the wilderness. And it's real hard to think about where you're going to be when you're hungry. So the lesson, one lesson you could get from that is sometimes things look worse when you're following the Lord. That's not how you think. You think it's going to look better. Everything's going to clear up once you're on the right track. Well, they were on the right track and it started looking worse. Something to challenge me about that lesson, turning that into a question. Am I okay with things getting worse when I follow God? Or am I just going to complain or quit or, that challenges me. So, my response to this, the two things we've surfaced to learn are that thank you, Father, that you hear our prayer and you answer our prayers, even when we don't pray them perfectly. Help me not be frustrated when I have to wait. These things are in your time. And I pray you will give me the steadfastness to keep following you even when it looks like things are getting worse. Not have to have things be better for me to be willing to follow you. But I thank you most of all for how patient you are with us. That's how I would respond to that. Also, next time, Denise is going to give her testimony about her time with God. So we look forward to seeing you then. Lord bless you.